The Fir Audio E12. Let's talk about it. Now, this is an IEM that was sent to me as part of a HeadFi tour, so all thoughts and opinions are my own. Let's start by talking about the build quality of this IEM. Now, this is a phenomenal shell. It reminds me a great deal of the 64 Audio Velour shell. It is metallic, it feels good in ear, it looks good, it has a swappable faceplate, it has a small nozzle. It's just an overall great IEM with a beautiful self-designable faceplate that you could actually swap out, which I think is a super cool thing to consider. If you look at this cable, it feels really good in hand. This is a nice feeling cable. It's a copper wire cable, has a nice chin slider. It fits, it fits the IEM well. It's a flat 2-pin cable connector, which is pretty much my favorite type, and it's an overall great IEM. Now, the case is also nice. It's kind of a leatherette kind of a case, has the Fir logo on the front. Overall, solid case, beautiful accessory package. The Fir Audio E12 graph. Let's look at this thing. It has pretty decent bass response. Its bass sounds pretty impactful and it's kind of fun, but its mids get scooped. Its upper mids kind of run into the problem where they get a little bit shouty. Has a lot of treble energy right here, and so becomes extremely fatiguing for me and for my ears and what I want. As we look at a few others, I want to compare this to the E12 and to the E10. Let's compare these two together. There's a lot of similarities. The E12 has a little bit better bass response. It's also a lot more money. I want to say it's $1,200 versus $1,800. They're both a lot of money, and they both kind of give a similar sound signature. I personally don't really see value in either one, but I think, if I had to pick in a vacuum which one I would go with, I probably would go with the E12 over it, but they both have a lot of the similar qualities and similar issues with both of them. This is the website, which is cool, is you can change out the faceplates to these. I do really like the shell, and I think the shells are really awesome looking. This company, I personally haven't experienced that many of their products, but I do think it's interesting that one of their products from, Bad Guy Good Audio Reviews, Chris HBB, is really high on his ranking list. The Fir Audio RN6 is something that is really highly rated by him. And so this is definitely something that's been on my list that I am very interested in. I would definitely want to try this someday. And I think that's kind of something to note, that just because a company does one good IEM doesn't mean that all their IEMs are going to be the exact same. And you kind of have to watch out for that, because it doesn't mean that they don't want to try like an experimental tuning or something different or fun. Let's take a look at that graph. You'll notice that's really nice and fits his target pretty well, a little bit extra bass. But overall, it's a nice looking graph. If we look at the Fir Audio E12, it's just kind of crazy. I personally think, if you're looking at something with that shell, the 64 Audio U4S probably would be a better bet. It's a lot more neutral. It still kind of has that spacey, peaky upper mids, but it doesn't have that dip. And I think it's just an overall better IEM for something to consider. I want to say you can find one used for around $700. And I just think the 64 Audio U4S is a really solid little pick that you can get that has a beautiful build quality, and it's just a little bit more neutral, but still fun. Another one to think about, if you are going to go to the $1,800 point, you might even be able to get a 64 Audio Velour. I really like the Velour and I highly recommend it. I think it's one of my favorite 64 Audio IEMs that I've ever tried. I fully love that IEM, and I think if you're going to spend that much money, you might want to think about stretching and just going and getting the Velour. At this price point, you can easily afford Divas. Sometimes you'll find an Acoustics Lab Diva on sale for around $1,400. Sometimes you can, if you want to go use, which is really not a bad way to go, because if you do end up reselling that, it'll help you not eat as much of a resale cost value. Usually you eat about 30% in resale costs. So when, if you can get it used early, then it doesn't have as many problems as you go forward. But to me, the Diva is something that's a lot closer to my target. It's still fun. It still has flavor. and spice. It's not like a boring neutral, and it has a lot of different switches, and it's a really fun toy. But for me, when at this price you can get the Diva, the Fir Audio E12 just doesn't make a lot of sense. If we look at something like the Project M, you know, I don't know. I kind of harsh on the Project M, but I kind of think the Project M is better than the Fir Audio like E12. I really don't like the scooped mids. Like if we, you know, put this out at say 500, maybe see that a little bit better, how it gets its scooped mids and just has a ton of energy in that upper treble. I think the Fir Audio has a lot of fun in the upper air. And I think the Dita Project M also has that, but is a little bit more tactful and a little bit more gracious. And it's like, you know, it's like a sixth of the cost. So it's really something you should consider. One thing I want to show you is that not long ago, I had an Aria and I bought this Aria and I bought it and I graphed it. And I actually was able to return it without any faults because it's so mismatched. This is a mismatched Aria, but I want you to know even this mismatched old problematic Aria to me is still a little bit better than the E12. Like it's just not as spiky and crazy. So like the Fir Audio E12 to me, it just has a lot of problems. And I kind of want to show you graphs and some comparisons as to why I don't really like this rather than just bombastically saying, ooh, it's bad. Because it's not fully bad. It's just something that fatigues me quick, that doesn't really sound right to my ears. It just sounds way too colored. I'm all for a little bit of a colored sound, but when it gets beyond a point, I just, it's not for me. The Fir Audio E12, while I think it's maybe slightly better than the E10, it's more expensive. And either way, I just don't think it really offers a ton of value for what I want. It has a ton of 8K energy, a ton of 5 to 6K energy. It has dipped scooped mids, and there's a lot of problems for that for what I want to listen to. To be honest, there's a lot more neutral IEMs out there. This is what I would call a fully flavored or fun set. It's just not for me. It's not something I can recommend to you guys. I think both of these go under that category where I would highly recommend to demo them first. You know, this is a crazy hobby. You see people buying IEMs that are super expensive all the time. You get some guy who's like, oh yeah, this is a great IEM. The bass in this is great. But until you can actually see a graph and hear it in your ears, it's something that I would highly recommend for you guys to be careful of. There's a lot of value to be had in the cheaper IEM market for just the casual person. Now, if you like this IEM, I'm not going to take away your enjoyment. And nor should you saying me hating on this IEM should take away your enjoyment. It never should. But with any IEM, I'm definitely going to recommend to make sure you have good return policies, that you can sell or return this IEM if you don't like it. And in general, I would recommend never to blind buy an IEM over, say, $200. Maybe your limit's higher than mine or maybe lower, and that's okay. But this IEM, I don't know. I like this IEM. I like the build quality of it. It's kind of fun to have in ear, but once I have it in ear for more than, say, 2 songs, I want it out. I don't love it. But I do love the build quality. I would love to see a little bit more neutral set from Fir Audio. I would love to hear the RN6 someday. And I don't think the company is bad. I think this is an experimental tuning that they did that I personally just don't enjoy and vibe with. And it is not something that I can recommend. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. You're still here. It's over. Go home. Go watch another IEM video. It's done. That's the entire video. What more do you want?